Hey nerds, I'm back. Today I've got something new for y'all today. I'm going to give you a top 5 list of the best premium tanks for World of Tanks Blitz. Quick disclaimer, only the ones I have played can be on the list because I don't really have an opinion of tanks I haven't played. And those include the Dracula and the Helsing. I have the Edelweiss, but I haven't played it. So tanks that are considered good still won't be on the list just because I don't have them. So these are top 5 premium tanks that I personally have. Anyways, let's get started. Coming in at number 5 is the T54 Mod 1. It is a tier 8 Russian premium medium tank, and this thing is just incredible. It sports pretty much the T44 turret plus 60 millimeters of frontal armor and buffed side armor as well, and it's for all intents and purposes got the T54's hull, which is pretty decently armored for tier 9, but it's bumped down a tier and now it's on a tier 8 premium. For consumables, it's pretty standard. I run the same thing on everything. I run multi-kit, adrenaline, and repair, and a regular repair kit. If it's an autoloader, I'll run speed boost instead of adrenaline. For provisions, I run the combat rations, protective kit, and fuel. Fuel just because it is rather slow for a medium, so the extra boost helps it, go quicker. The gun gets 7.4 rounds a minute, the 175 AP pen, 235 APCR pen, 280 alpha for AP, 240 alpha for APCR, and then 350 alpha on HE, which you'll shoot at like SP1Cs, Borsigs, and waffle tractors. So it's got big alpha for a tier 8 medium tank. I mean, the only ones that match it are the Type 59 and the T44. So with an excellent gun, it's pretty much got the exact same gun as the T44, if not the exact same gun. Just some soft stats might differ, but not enough to make a difference at all, really. So basically, you've got T44 with a lot more armor and a little bit less mobility. It's insanely good. 180 millimeters of frontal turret armor, 120 on the sides, 75 at the rear. The turret traverses at 58 degrees a second. That's fast. 58 degrees a second? With that much turret traverse, like light tanks that are trying to zip past you without getting shot, it's just not going to happen. You're just going to be able to turn and go, boom, you shoot them in the butt. No big deal. They can't. They're not fast enough. No light tank is fast enough to just get past you without you shooting them if you want to. So that's like incredible. It's turns faster than it needs to for a tank as mobile as it is, because it's not obviously not the most mobile tier 8 medium, but the turret traverse is like up with the best. It's great. You're never gonna complain about the turret traverse, and if you are, you just need to turn tracks too. And if you can't turn your tracks and your turret at the same time, then there's something wrong with you, honestly. But now we got to talk about equipment. For equipment, with the T54 Mod 1, I run pretty standard for most tanks I have that have pretty good armor, and the Mod 1's got more armor than some tier 8 heavies. So I pretty much just run what I run for the heavies on it. I run gun rammer, enhanced cabin, coated optics, gun laying drive, enhanced armor, engine accelerator, vertical stabilizer, the track repair thing, and the consumable delivery system. So you can use your repair kits, your multi-tool kits, and your adrenaline more often than you would without it. Now coming in at number 4 is the IS-5, another Russian tier 8 premium tank. This time it's a heavy tank, and it is the tier 10 clan supply reward tank. It costs 1,500 gold to get, So it is by far the cheapest tier 8 premium tank that you can buy, and everyone can get it. You just need to get in a clan and grind a clan supply. So it's phenomenal in that respect because it's super cheap. You just take some work to get to it. But the IS-5 looks great with the legendary camo, first of all, but its armor is probably the best of the IS clones. The IS-3 Defender has super troll armor, and it's got a better turret than the IS-5, but overall I feel like the IS-5 has better armor because it's got 10 millimeters more on the pike, and the pike is also better angled. So they pretty much got the same guns, but the IS-5 is a single shot instead of an autoloader, so you don't have that long wait in between shells after you shoot off 3. So I like that. Same standard consumables, provisions, same thing. You don't need the fuel. You can use condensed milk instead if you want, but I just ran the fuel because, you know, I like to be a little bit more mobile in most of my tanks. So ammunition, 15, 10, 5. Gotta have some heat. If you're going against like a T95 or something, you're gonna want heat for the penetration. And the excellent heat penetration also comes in handy. For equipment, you can run the enhanced pen, but really I just run rammer because the penetration's good enough as it is. But you can really kind of pick either or if you want to go rammer or better penetration. And I also do enhanced cabin because, you know, Russian weak ammo rack, gotta help that any way you can. And also use coated optics. Enhanced gun length drive, obviously big derpy Russian gun. You want to help the aim time as much as you can. Enhanced armor, heavy tank, good armor, even better armor now. Engine accelerator, like I said earlier, I like to have more mobility or as much as I can get. Then vertical stabilizer, and I will get the track repair and the consumable resupply eventually. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen eventually, trust me. So equipment, again, pretty standard. Really the only reason it'll change is if it's a super lightly armored tank, or if it's an autoloader, I might use the penetration instead of vents or stuff like that. The equipment I have is pretty standard throughout all my tanks. Now the gun, like I said earlier, pretty average, derpy, you know, tier 8 Russian premium tank, 221 pen for APCR, not AP, 270 heat. Penetration, 61 HE pen with 400, 340, and 500 alpha. 0.394 dispersion 100 meters. 5.9 second aim time. So, you know, not too accurate. Takes a while to aim, but I mean, you're in a heavy tank that's Russian, so you're gonna want to brawl them up close and personal anyways. So the aim time and accuracy aren't usually going to be too big of a deal when you're using it. Engine's got a 15% chance of fire on impact, and the protective kit and the enhanced cabin will help with that. The turret is 201 millimeters by 129 and then 90, so it's got a really good turret. It's just got a couple of weak spots that the IS-3 Defender's turret does not have. It's got those little kind of nipples on top of the turret with the cupolas that you can hit. They're difficult to hit, but you can hit them. So that is something you have to watch out for when you are playing it. The turret traverses at 29 degrees a second, and the tracks traverse at about the same. So you're getting pretty decent traverse, not enough to keep up with some medium tanks, or any light tank. So the armor though, the 120, 120, 60 on the whole is phenomenal. The reason why I picked the IS-5 is because it's the toughest nut to crack of any of the IS clones that you see running rampant throughout Tier 8. The 120 millimeters pike is incredibly well angled, and there's like no weak spots there besides the lower plate, and even that's difficult to hit because of the angle. And then 120 millimeters on the side compared to like 100 that most others have for the IS clones. So it's got phenomenal armor, and it's just excellent overall. The other IS clones, like the IS-3 Defender, it does have a better turret without the weak spots. It's still got like the turret roof that's weak that you can penetrate if you're above it, but like if you're on flat ground, then you can't hit it like you could hit the IS-3s if you're on flat ground. But I still picked the IS-5, even though the Defender has a stronger turret and a little bit more gun depression, because the whole armor is, although the Defender's is troll, the IS-5's got more hull armor, which makes it just even more troll and just more difficult, more tough of a nut to crack than the IS-3 Defender. The IS-6 is also a really good Tier 8 Russian premium, but the hull is a lot easier to pen because it's 100 millimeters thick with about the same sloping. So if you've got about 200 millimeters, you can pretty much penetrate the IS-6 and IS-6 Frills, obviously because it's the same tank, pretty reliably, but you're going to need 220 to 40 to penetrate the pike of the IS-5 if it's not angled. If it's angled, obviously it'll take less, but the IS-5 is just more difficult to penetrate than the IS-6 is, and that's why I picked the IS-5 over any of the other Russian Tier 8 heavy tank spam things going on and whatever. So the IS-5, in my opinion, is the best of the available Russian Tier 8 premiums. So that's why it's on the list as number 4. At number 3 is the Type 62 or Type 62 Dragon, if you've got the legendary camo on like I do. It is a Tier 7 Chinese premium light tank. Consumables, pretty standard, have it on like just about everything. Double repair kit and adrenaline. So you could use speed boost instead of repair kit or instead of adrenaline because it's a light, but the thing that really makes the Dragon special is the DPM it has. It shoots incredibly fast. It's, in my opinion, it's still better than the Dracula. So even if I had the Dracula, I'd probably pick the Dragon over it, because even though the Dracula goes like 12 kilometers an hour faster, the DPM just is not there compared to the Dragon. And it's just, this thing can just like burn down tanks like you would not believe. I don't have it as much equipment on it as I would like, but it's gonna be pretty standard. Rammer, cabin, optics, gun laying drive, except for the 5th slot, I would pick improved assembly, which gives you more health, then obviously engine accelerator, and for the 7th slot, I would pick the refined gun over V-stabs, because before the equipment change, I didn't run V-stabs anyways, because it's already really good at firing on the move. Like, you can fire on the move from like 300 meters and still hit like 7 times out of 10. So the firing on the move is already excellent. Armor, light tank, it's going to be bad. But the gun, 12.5 rounds a minute with this 85 millimeter gun with 145 pen, 250 penetration with heat rounds. My God, that is a lot. Like, tier 7 light tanks got nerfed for penetration because it was too much, because you were able to go up against like tier 8s like no problem from the front, but they didn't nerf the premium, the heat shells penetration like they nerfed other penetrations from other tier 7s like the LTTB, for example. And the alpha damage is 200, 170, and then 300. So if you're shooting at other super lightly armored tanks like SP1Cs, Borsigs, you're going to be able to penetrate them with your HE. So you do take a few HE with you. Engine's got a 12% chance of fire on impact. Turret armor, 45, 35, 20. You will get like a few out of the blue miracle bounces. Like I've had an IS-3 bounce off me before completely randomly, like shouldn't have happened, but it did anyway somehow. So it's enough armor to pull off random miracle bounces, which is something that the Dracula doesn't have. The Dracula goes faster. It's got about the same amount of armor, but it's a bigger target, and it's easier to HE and stuff. So that's another reason why I would pick the Type 62 Dragon over the T6 Dracula anyways, besides the gun. The gun, 12.5 rounds a minute, is insane. But moving on, the hit points is 1,150, which is pretty good. The Dracula's got 100 more, but then you get HE'd more. It's not going to make that big of a difference. Let's see here. Maneuverability, it goes 60 kilometers an hour compared to the Dracula's 72. The traverse speed is 70 degrees a second, and the turret traverse speed is 58 degrees a second. My God, this thing is maneuverable. Like, you can just bob and weave like through anything, really. This thing is like a little like cockroach, just like zooming back and forth along the freaking floor, trying to get away from everything. But let's check out the DPM here. Let's see, clear. And then we got 12.5 times 200. It's got 2,500 DPM without using adrenaline. That's higher than any tier 8 heavy tank right now. Higher than any tier 8 premium heavy tank, I should say, that I know of. Maybe the KB5 might have more with the terrible gun with like no penetration, but this thing is just phenomenal. The Mutant, for example, has 4.75 rounds a minute with 400 alpha damage. So let's see. Clear, 4.75 times 400. That gives it 1,900 DPM. This thing has 600 more DPM than a tier 8 premium heavy tank. And this thing is super quick. It will have zero trouble circling around the side of it, getting shot maybe once. So if he doesn't ammo rack you, he's totally screwed. T54 shoots a little faster than the Mutant. We already know that. The Jagdtiger, the low, let's see, 7.13 and for 310. It's not going to be more than 2,500. The IS-6 with the first gun is probably going to be the best bet. But let's try the low. 7.13 times 310. It's 2210. So it's a lot closer. It's a little bit less than 300 more DPM. But let's try the IS-6. 5.53 times 400. Or 5.83, I'm sorry, times 400 is 2332. So a little bit more than low, but the Dragon still has more DPM than those tier 8 premium heavy tanks. and it's a tier 7, and it's a light tank, and light tanks just eat up stupid heavy tanks. That's why the T49 is so good. It's because it's got that maneuverability to just make heavy tanks look foolish. But this is a tier lower, and it can just, it's a little monster. I love this thing. It's a blast to drive. If you do not have it, when it comes out, buy it. We're heading to the salt mines for this next one. The number 2 tank on my list is the M60. Obviously, there's a huge controversy over the M60 because of how Wargaming went about releasing it. They gave it to people who were loyal, quote unquote. But it's the criteria. What meant to be loyal to them was they didn't tell anyone. They just said, "Oh, we would give it to loyal players," and everyone's like, "I'm loyal. I spent however many hundreds of dollars and have been playing since 2014." Yada yada yada. So people that probably should have got it didn't, and people that shouldn't have gotten it did. Like a lot of people that are like 40%ers, like just like not good at all, probably don't give a damn about the game. They got the tank, and people are super salty about it. Another thing is I got it. I probably shouldn't have gotten it. I was AFK for like 3 or 4 months because I was in like OSUT for the army. Like I didn't have my phone at all. I didn't play a single game. Logged on like maybe once during family day before graduation. And then I log on while I'm in airborne hold, and I'm like, oh, hey, I've got a tier 10, like with the M60. Like, what the hell? What is this? I went to the forums, and everyone's freaking out about it. But, yeah, the M60 is, for all intents and purposes, an M48 pattern. It's got a differently shaped hull, so it's not as troll as a M48 is, but you'll still get a lot of troll bounces. And the turret is pretty much the exact same turret as the M48, maybe a little bit of a difference, but not enough to make like a huge gameplay changing thing. And the one thing that this has that the M48 doesn't is it has 10 degrees of gun depression, and the Patton has 9. And that little extra degree of gun depression makes it just that much more flexible. That's why the 140 is so much better than the T62A, because of that extra degree of gun depression that makes it that much more flexible. And the M48 along with the STB are generally considered to be the best tier 10 medium tanks right now for the current meta, especially for Clan Wars. You'll only really ever see Pattons or STBs, or if it's a super flat map, you'll see 140s occasionally because of the DPM. But the M60 is still, in my opinion, better than the Patton because of that extra degree of gun depression that you can use to be more sneaky and flexible with your shots. And I'll show you what I mean in Armor Inspector real quick. Here's the M60 in Armor Inspector. You can see the hull isn't rounded like the Pattons is, but with the upper plate how it is, if you're using a gun depression, it's still going to be an automatic bounce zone. When you switch to the Patton, it looks like it's more heavily armored on the turret, but really it's not. Maybe a slight amount, but not a huge difference. And if you see the giant, you can see like the green squares on the guns, and the M60s looks like it's like 4 times the size. I tested it, and you're not going to penetrate still. It's still that American mantlet. It says it's green, you can penetrate, but you can't. And as proof, here's this video here. As you can see from this video, I have the STB. The same thing I had set as the shooter in Armor Inspector. Joss is going to be shooting different parts of the gun mantlet, trying to penetrate. But he's not going to be able to, although there's a giant green box an armor inspector that when you click it, it's like, oh, there's like no armor there, and this tank's gonna die because you're gonna get penetrated every time. I had Josh shoot different parts of the gun mantlet, didn't penetrate a single time. I also had him switch to heat, and that didn't work either. The health I did lose is he shot my hull while he was driving up to me. But the gun mantlet, as you can see, is holding. It's not getting and not letting anything through. So you not gonna have to worry about getting pinned randomly through the mantlet. If you're playing this tank, the turret cheeks still will get penetrated, but I mean it'll happen on a patent also. So you don't have to worry about something going through a giant green square if you're playing the M60 over the patent, because both of them have those gun mantlets that will stop like anything. So don't worry about that. Armor inspector's just got a faulty model. So other than a differently shaped hull and the extra degree of gun depression, the M60 is pretty much a carbon copy of the M48 patent, which is good for me because I didn't go down the American medium lines, and because I have the M60, now I don't have to. There's literally no point in me trying to go down the M48 line because I have an M60, unless I wanted to play like the Pershing or the M46, because that'd be really the only reasons I need to. And another thing that Armor Inspector has wrong here is the cupolas. Obviously the cupolas are like they had mastectomies on the boobs on top of it. They're not there anymore, or they're way small right now. So you don't have to worry about those big old things being on the M60 or the M48. The M60 I'd still say is better than the M48, obviously, because the gun depression and the upper plate's a little bit more bouncy, but with the M48, I guess the sides are a little bit bouncier, more trollish because of the curves. But yeah, the M60, although it's technically a premium tank, but it doesn't have the premium coefficient. Like, it doesn't earn more credits than other tier 10s would do. So like, if you have it, be careful of that. If you don't have it, you're probably never gonna get it, so suck it. But basically with the M60, you get a free tier 10 medium tank that's considered the best in the meta right now. Last but certainly not least is the by far, hands down, most overpowered tank tier for tier in the game ever. The Keniyatsu is insane. But consumables, standard, speed boost instead of adrenaline because you can't have it. For provisions, you can only have 3 options, so you're obviously going to get those. Ammunition, I pretty much have just a 50-50 split because you're going to want a lot of AP, premium AP, because the penetration's kind of bad, but it's still good enough that you can pretty much get away with shooting regular AP most of the time. Only really at tier 4s is when you need to use the premium. But let's talk about the gun. The Keniyatsu has insane DPM. To put it in perspective, I'm going to show you what the tier 3 Kenny has once I'm done going through the equipment I have for it. It changed up the equipment slightly. I run the extra pen on it instead of vents because the pen's a little bad, so a few millimeters here and there helps. And I run improved assembly instead of armor because, I mean, it's already got no armor, so 5% more of nothing's not going to help any. But the HP does help. So the Kenny, the tier 3 tech tree tank, the tier 3 light for the Japanese branch, it has pretty much the same hull armor, same speed, same gun depression, same traverse, whatever, yada yada yada. The guns are also the exact same except for the time to reload for a full clip. For the drum, on the Kenny, it is 9.5 seconds. It'd probably get down to about 9 if you had 100% crew and vents. But with the Kenny Atsu, it is 2.9 seconds. 2.9 versus 9.5. That's stupid. You will get 2 full clips out easily for the reload between like shell for the full reload of the Kenny. Like if the Kenny just killed one of your buddies and you just killed one of his buddies, you're gonna be able to kill the Kenny before he's done reloading his magazine if you're in an Atsu. That's insane. The thing has 1950 DPM. It's tier 3. Earlier we looked at the M26, M2A6, the Mutant Experimental, the tier 8 American premium heavy tank. It had 1900 DPM even. This thing has more DPM than a tier 8, something 5 tiers higher than it, premium tank. That is unfathomable. It's completely overpowered. Wargaming had to take this off the store after like a day and a half of having it on the store because people were making forum posts like, my god, is this a mistake? Like they're like, everyone buy this tank and play it before Wargaming nerfs it to hell. Because it's just stupid overpowered. And like I saw one, I bought it, and then Wargaming took it off the store because they couldn't let any more people have it. Also would have just completely broken the game for a tier 3. It's stupid overpowered. So like I bought it, and then like half a day later it was taken off the store. Like that's stupid. And this thing also has 15 degrees of gun depression. 15 degrees. So it's got more DPM than a tier 8 premium heavy tank, and it's got 15 degrees of gun depression, and goes about 50 kilometers an hour, and it's really small of a target, so it's hard to hit anyways. And when you're using that 15 degrees of gun depression, they can barely see any of your turret. And my god, this thing is a seal clubber's paradise. The only things that give this thing trouble are like tier 4s, like the DW2, the Hetzer if you can't get around it, the Matilda for sure, the Valentine 2 definitely. So if you got like 50 millimeters of armor, you're gonna give the Kenny some problems. But other than that, there's nothing that even close to challenges the Kenny Atsu, because it's that ridiculously overpowered. Like, my god. If you're playing tier 3 and you see somebody seal clipping in this, you need to make this the priority, or else it's just going to completely just like burn down your team stupid freaking fast. This thing, it's got good mobility, amazing gun depression, and it's got higher DPM than some tier 8s. So that just right there, it's phenomenal. And if you don't have it, I'm sorry about your bad luck, because this thing is amazing. Anyways, this is M16's World of Tanks Blitz replays. I hope you enjoy the video, and as always, have a nice day.